Hey everybody, Steve here from The Buried Life, and today we're jumping into the mix. As you can see from the title, Sumi Loy, I'm horrible at names, versus Boba, cultural appropriation drama that is going on. And it makes you wonder what's going on with the world. Cultural appropriation, this is a thing that has reared its ugly head recently, and it's gone so far as we see examples of people getting upset for, people dressing up as Speedy Gonzales or wearing a sombrero and and a serape and whatever during Halloween or other times of the year. It doesn't really matter. But yet, Mexican people don't have a problem with it. If you have Irish people, you have leprechauns and stuff like that, and other people are so offended that, and the Irish don't care. I'm Irish, same thing. I'm German. I have German descent, and my last name was really Mock, so I was adopted. So I've got a lot of German. I'm about 50% German or so, or maybe 30%, somewhere around there, but a lot of German. Walking around in lederhosen and drinking, German beer doesn't offend the Germans. Matter of fact, you go to Oktoberfest, and me and my wife, who's Asian, she's Korean, we loved each other. We have great times, and wearing the hats and drinking and doing the chicken dance and the whole 9 yards. Doesn't seem to be a problem with the Germans. And like so many other cultures, matter of fact, we're retired here in Korea. You go to Korea and you go to the palaces and you can rent. You can rent clothes that they wore, like the hanboks and the ancient clothes that they had during the times, because Korea is like 10,000 years old. It's crazy, the history of Korea. But you can wear the authentic Korean clothes, and nobody cares about cultural appropriation. You shouldn't wear that because that's not your culture. Koreans are like, hey, go ahead, dress up, enjoy our culture, have some kimchi, have some ramen, have some great foods that we have developed over the thousands of years that they've been around. And yeah, there's cultural appropriation thing is usually not a thing here in Korea. Matter of fact, I have spent 12, 13, 14 years total in Korea, and guess what? Never heard or anybody complaining about cultural appropriation, except for the Chinese, because now the Chinese are saying that they made hanboks and they made kimchi, and that's really who started it, and it's like it's a whole big thing. But that's Asian on Asian, jockeying for position. I personally believe that Koreans came up with kimchi and hanboks and all that, so it is what it is. That's a whole nother video. But recently, what we ended up seeing, as I was doom scrolling Facebook, and I saw this Dragon's Den. It's kind of like, you have a bunch of people who are rich and famous, and then you have people coming in seeking investors or investments in their product, their company, their ideas, their whatever they're selling. And sometimes the investors will invest and take the company, and they make a lot of money. Other people, they're like, no, that's crazy, it's stupid, it's not going to work. And in this one, you had the guy who ended up actually, matter of fact, let's take a look at this. We have the guy here, and let me close that out. We have the guy here, and this is the dude. The dude here, let me get, why am I not there? Why am I not now? I'm there. So anyway, this is the actor, and you might have seen him from a Marvel movie or two. He was also on, it was a real good TV show, Convenience, something Convenience. I can't remember, but it was some Convenience. Awesome program, great, about immigrants coming to Canada, and they have a store, they're Korean, and he's not Korean, so is that cultural appropriation? Okay, well, anyway, I digress. Anyway, he ends up talking about how these investors come up with this Boba, and they change the name instead of being B-O-B-A, B-O-B-B-A, and they improved upon the boba drink, and that was their claim. They make it more healthier and blah blah blah, all this stuff, and they're getting into the marketplace, and they're doing pretty good. I mean, they had some great sales and everything, and everybody was impressed. But this wackadoo Hollywood actor, and he's probably a good guy, but in this thing I disagree. So there's a lot of stuff I like him in as an actor, and the stuff that he's done in the past, a lot of his opinions I agree with, but on this thing I disagree. So he probably doesn't even know me, so who cares? But if we did get to know each other, I'm sure there's things that he disagrees with me, but it wouldn't make a hill of beans, because if you're mature and civil, it's not that big of a deal. But anyway, his whole concern was the people that pitched this product idea, there was no Asians. And he's like, well, how, I'm kind of concerned about, appropriating the culture and blah, blah, blah. And he made a big deal about it. And he says, that's why I'm out and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, wait a second, I was wringing out the few brain cells that I have, remembering back to my time in high school, which was a very long time ago because I'm 58, and I started to remember tapioca. Tapioca originated in South America, and from what I remember, it went from South America to Europe to Asia and then the rest of the world in some canvas root or whatever. And so that got me thinking, wait a second, boba tea is not something that has hundreds and hundreds of years being originated in Asia, in Taiwan, or whatever. No, it actually, tapioca came from South America. So I decided to do some digging and to find out a little bit more on the history of boba tea and the tapioca pearls and how all that came to be. So this is going to be kind of interesting when you see this. Basically what we see here, seriously, tapioca is a starch derived from a root of the cassava plant, which is native to Brazil, which is in South America. The plant spread across South America and was taken to explorers to Europe, Africa, and Asia. So it's not like a 500-year-old custom that came solely from Asia. People are getting way too sensitive and woke, in my opinion. The owner of a tea store, this is the history, called Chun Si Tang, Mr. Li Han Sheng, first came up with the idea of serving tea cold. So yeah, he served tea cold. Usually tea is served hot, but he served it cold because he was groundbreaking. Either that or he was lazy and he didn't want to make fresh tea and tried to, salvage the cold tea that nobody wanted to drink. Cold tea on a hot day. Maybe we can market this and I can save and make some money. I don't know. So anyway, that was in like 1983 as he came up with that idea. And then the first came up with the idea of that, but it wasn't until 1988. 1988 was the year of the Olympics in Korea. I was in Korea, stationed in Korea in 1988. That's when I came to Korea. So it's not like this is like putting tapioca in cold tea was thousands of years old or even hundreds of years old. It was 1988. So anyway, a product development manager working with Mr. Louis or whatever his name is came up with the idea of putting sweetened tapioca, the pearls as they came to be, into a cold tea, which the cold tea thing wasn't a thing until 1983. I graduated high school in 85. That's when I joined the Army, graduated and went into the Army at 85 and 17. So much for cultural heritage. This actor, Lou, this guy took something from South America and improved a tea drink, which was normally served hot, but he served it cold. And now Sumi is hot and bothered because another race of people seek to improve the drink even more. Okay, so where is the outrage for the cultural appropriation of things from South America? Come on, Sumi, you can do better. You can do better. I mean, really, we're so concerned about cultural appropriation of food. Do you think Mexicans are concerned that white people are making tacos? No, they're not. It's like they'll tell you how to improve upon those tacos and to not make them white tacos. But, same with almost every other culture will share their food and what they've done and how they improved upon it. Because I'll tell you what, right now, the food that is in Korea now is not the same food that I experienced back in 1988. They've made many improvements to the food and the taste and the quality and new recipes and this and that. I mean, kimchi still goes back hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, and there's like 500 types of kimchi or whatever. So there's not just one. But all of this has been evolving over time. The thing is, when you take tea, which was kind of a staple all over the world, so it's not really a cultural appropriation. Maybe the English will get mad, but in tea, where did it come from? No, it's not really a thing. Tapioca came from South America and spread throughout the rest of the world. And then this guy in 1988 decided to put tapioca into a cold tea drink. Cultural appropriation? No, it was a dude that wanted to improve and market and say, hey, well, I got a bunch of tea here and it's cold and nobody wants it, so how can I market this? How can I make this so I don't have to throw it away and I can make some money? So he did this marketing thing and cold tea became a thing, but it wasn't until 1988 that he started throwing tapioca into the cold tea and eventually, boom, Boba was born in 1988-ish and later. And now it's spread all over the world. So can we really say it's cultural appropriation? I mean, what is the statute of limitations? Is it 1988? Oh, this is going to be interesting. I mean, really, when you think about it, it's 2024, and if we look back at 1988, that's like 36 years. So it is the statute of limitation on cultural appropriation. Is it 35 years? Is it 37 years? Is it 30 years? When you pass that mark of 30 years, this is like, oh, suddenly it's cultural appropriation because it's 36 years old. I'm 58. I for some strange reason, I just don't think that qualifies as cultural appropriation, in my opinion. So, again, I'm not taking a knock at this guy and for him being an actor and, there he is right there, this dude here. I'm not taking a dig at him, but what I am concerned with is the fact that we have a bunch of people nowadays that are so up in arm about, oh, cultural appropriation. Oh, it's so bad. It's so evil. How dare you do that? And other recent examples of this are African Americans who say, oh, you can't do braids. White people with braids. And it's like there's kind of some history behind that. And before they were a thing in the African American community, it was kind of a Viking thing and a Germanic thing and Scandinavian, Nordic. You go back in time, but you don't see people of Nordic descent all up in arms because people are wearing braids. No, it's like, hey, share it, enjoy it, have fun with it. That is something that we did because we didn't want our hair, all crazy like. So they put it in braids. It's and a lot of different cultures did that same thing too. So I don't really understand the cultural appropriation bit. So anyway, I just thought that was interesting. And now there's even some backlash on this. So I'm gone again. Okay, now we're going to come back. So anyway, there was an investor that invested like $1 million on this. Manjit Minhas withdraws Boba investment after this debate here with this guy. He continues to dominate the headlines, and the narrative has taken a complex turn. While the initial focus was on Liu's accusations of cultural appropriation, the conversation has evolved to encompass online hate. Seriously, it's much ado about nothing, and a broader discussion about cultural sensitivity in business. Uh, Liu initially called out Boba for culture appropriating the Taiwanese drink and framing it as healthier and better alternative, which actually it is. Found himself in the unexpected position of defending the entrepreneurs from all online hatred. The criticism directed at the Boba founders, Sebastian Fizet and Jess Frenet, escalated to harassment and even death threats, promoting Liu to leverage his platform to de-escalate the situation. Now, here's the thing. It's like, well, wait a second. It's not appropriation, cultural appropriation to begin with. And so really, whose fault is this? I think it was Sumi's. Or Simlu or whatever, Simu. I think he actually was the one that all this stuff was in the pot, and he started initially stirring it up, and he didn't need to. It's never okay to make threats. It's never okay to bully and harass, which is absolutely true. So I have to give him 2 thumbs up for that. He reiterated his sentiment on Instagram, stating that he stands by his critique of their approach and they do not deserve any negative ill will. But again, this just shows me he doesn't know his history. Where does tapioca come from? South America. So why isn't he mad about cultural appropriation of things that are South American? From Brazil. He didn't once mention South America or the origins of tapioca and where it came from originally. And no, he didn't even go into the details of saying, well, when was it invented? It was 1988. I was alive, and I was in Korea in the military. So, however, the Dragon's Den response, which primarily amplified his statements, has drawn criticism for seemingly placing the burden of responsibility on him to manage the fallout. They're trying to save face. He's trying to save face. But really, all they need to do is to just look and say, hey, listen, tapioca came from Brazil in South America. Boba was invented in 1988, only 36 years ago. So it's not a huge cultural heritage thing like it's hundreds or thousands of years old and it's specific to that country, all the ingredients. No, it's not. And so really they just need to state the obvious and say, hey, a little misunderstanding on both sides, blah, blah, blah. It's much ado about nothing anyway. So anyway, the message is that, they kind of do their thing about it's never okay to harass. And it's just like, seriously. Viewers pointed out the show has yet to acknowledge its own role in the controversy, dismissing the reactions of other dragons to Liu's concerns. This led to accusations of the show being tone deaf and failing to take accountability for contributing to the hostile environment. The show should have just said tapioca was originated from South America. This guy in Taiwan threw tapioca into some cold tea in 1988, and boom, Boba was born. So it's not like this huge cultural thing. That guy took the tapioca, put it into a cold tea as a marketing ploy to try to make some money. Yeah, it's not a cultural thing. It's a money thing. So he was trying to improve cold tea by let's throw something in here that tastes sweet, maybe cold and sweet. Yeah, maybe that'll push the marketing and people. Oh yeah, cold and sweet on a hot day. That might be good. Kind of like ice cream. What are the odds? Boom, there you go. So the way the Dragon's Den has reposted a defense of Simu, rather than posting an apology, is absolutely tone deaf. Do not victimize yourself after actively participating in the erasure of Asian culture. It's very disappointing. Boba's 36 years old. You're not erasing Asian culture. Now, if they tried to do that with tea, maybe that's a different thing. But even then, it's like you're pulling at strings here. You're stretching. Investor Manit Minhas, who initially offered Boba $1 million investments, further complicated the situation by announcing her withdrawal from the deal. The decision, while seemingly aligned with public sentiment, has been met with skepticism. Some viewers interpreted it as a calculated move to protect her own image and avoid association with the controversial brand, rather than a genuine understanding of the cultural appropriation concerns raised by Liu. They're not cultural appropriation concerns because Boba's only 36 years old, and tapioca originally came from South America. One commenter on Minhas Instagram aptly summarized the perspective. Translation: the business appears to no longer be lucrative, so I will not be investing more. I don't see the cultural appropriation everyone is mentioning, but here's the script. Please leave me alone. Yeah, and it's Simu raised very valid points regarding cultural appropriation, and we welcome the learning opportunity. Well, the learning opportunity is when was Boba invented? How long ago? Where does tapioca come from? And you'll understand that it's not cultural appropriation. Yeah, it's, and now the companies, they've outlined plans to reevaluate their branding and marketing to be respectful to the bubble tea's Taiwanese origins. It's not really. It's some guy in Taiwan took tapioca from South America and cold tea that he couldn't sell and combined it together to make a buck. It wasn't like this. It wasn't like. There's a drink here in Korea that was only consumed by kings, and it was kind of like a rice, cinnamon drink, and it was kind of like after you ate a meal, and only kings and royalty would be able to drink that drink. And it was made here in Korea, and it's like hundreds and hundreds, thousands of years old. So it's kind of like, that's very different than boba tea that's only been around for 36 years. Again, what is the statute of limitations when we're talking about cultural appropriation? And it's funny because before, there wasn't really cultural appropriation, and it wasn't a thing, and nobody got mad, and it was like, hey, the Irish are like, hey, drink, do this, do that, Lucky Charms, no problem. The American Indians are doing their things, and they didn't mind that football teams and baseball teams were named after, certain tribes of the American Indians. They were, matter of fact, some of the biggest fans I've met of certain baseball teams that were named after American Indians were they themselves American Indians. I don't know. What are the odds? Yeah, so it's just crazy on what we end up seeing when we talk about this cultural appropriation stuff and how crazy it has gotten, because nobody knows history anymore. Nobody knows history. And if I did not remember what I was taught in school, why did I remember that tapioca came from South America? I don't know. I just thought it was an American thing, so it stuck out in my mind. Oh, South America. And even then, thinking back after I read this, I was like, really? Was it? So that's what got me on to the search. And after much researching and Googling and all of that stuff online and the interwebs, I found out, yeah, it's not really cultural appropriation when it's 36 years old. I'm 58. And for some reason, in the last, I'd say 10 years, cultural appropriation has raised its ugly head, whereas before that, it wasn't even a thing. So I'm not understanding what the deal is with this Simu versus Boba and cultural appropriation with a company that wanted to improve a drink, and he says it was, boba tea is you're appropriating a culture, and it's like, no, it was 1988 when boba was invented, and a guy from Taiwan took tapioca from South America and put it together because he couldn't sell cold tea, and he marketed it to make money. Yeah, that's not really. Is that a cultural thing? I'm not sure. So anyway, I just find it funny that people that are trying to make improvements in things and trying to make money and trying to do marketing are getting punished for cultural appropriation for a guy that originally took a product, added some other stuff to it so that he could market it and make money. Does that sound hypocritical? Yeah, I think it is. So anyway, that's what we got going on. I thought that was kind of hilarious. As I'm reading this, I'm like, people are getting so bent out of shape over this stuff, and they don't know the history of boba. They don't know the history where tapioca came from, and they, I would. It would be interesting to ask this guy Sumi if when was boba invented? If he knew that it was in 1988. 1988. Oh, that reminds me. Let's look him up and see how old he is. He was born in 1989, in 19 April 1989. So yeah, there he is, born in 1989. Marvel Universe. Of course, he did some other stuff. Kim's Convenience. That was the show that he ended up doing. So anyway, yeah, he was born in 1989. So basically, if he was a preemie, he would have been around when boba was invented. His parents were around when boba was invented, just before he was born. Probably a few months before he was born. So yeah, is it really cultural appropriation? What does he get out of this? I don't understand. I don't understand. I mean, he's a great actor. He does some great works. Like I said, the Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings and all that stuff. The Marvel Universe, he did the Kim's Convenience, and he's done some other stuff in Blood and Water. And yeah, I really enjoy him as an actor and the stuff that he did and that he is doing. What else did he end up doing? Fresh Off the Boat. He was a guest actor on that. So yeah, it's just kind of crazy what I end up seeing and how people are so bent out of shape about cultural appropriation of something that was made in 1988. That didn't, probably the main ingredient that people associate with boba tea are the tapioca pearls, which originated from South America. I don't know. I just makes you wonder, and it's funny because over here in Korea, no one cares about this. No one cares. Koreans are improving upon all kinds of things all over the place. Even their own foods are improving. And it's just incredible because the country's evolving and they're taking this and that and they're sharing things. There's restaurants in the United States that are making ramen restaurants in the United States that don't have any Koreans whatsoever. And you don't see the Koreans up in arms saying, oh, how dare you try to appropriate our culture by selling ramen by Mexicans or white people or somebody that's not Korean or Asian descent. They don't do that. They want you to enjoy the food that they came up with, and they're happy with that. And if you can improve upon it, it's amazing. And yet people get mad for cultural appropriation. So anyway, that's what we got going on. I thought that was really funny. Seeing this stuff that has going on in the media and how companies and people are, we can't step on toes and we got to apologize and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, but when you look under the thin veil of cultural appropriation, you find the truth. And it's like, you're mad at this? Really? You're concerned about this? So in other words, it's more about appearances. So I bet if the company had somebody who was Asian pitch this thing to the Dragon's Den, he wouldn't have questioned him one bit. No, are we going to get stupid and start doing that? Well, who is the originator? And, blah, blah, blah. Who's the owner? And do you have any Asians? Or are we start going to have quotas for, how many minorities do you have in your workplace to qualify so that it's not cultural appropriation for the state? It's starting to get absurd. And whereas 10 years ago, it wasn't a thing. And so people are getting angry over stuff that, in the grand scheme of things, it's not going to change anything. It's only going to hurt that company. It's going to hurt other people. But for everyday people like you and me, you're going to get your boba, boom, tapioca pearls, down you go, good stuff. We don't really care that tapioca came from South America. We just want to enjoy the drink, and that somebody took this and these other ingredients, slammed it all together, and boom, there it is. Now, can you improve upon that? Yes. Can you improve upon foods to make them healthier and better for you? Absolutely. You just go to any grocery store and you can find aisles littered with products that have been proved upon over the years from other countries, and we have that opportunity. I mean, that we have that option now. If you want to eat the original stuff, go for it. If you want to eat the new and improved and better, less, low fat, low sugar, whatever, boom, we got you covered on that too. So anyway, crazy stuff. I don't know. I'm gonna. Crazy. Anyway, that's it. Like and subscribe to the channel. I would appreciate that. And we will see you on the next video. Peace.